Good morning. Yeah, several years ago, we were welcomed with open arms into this family. And now for some reason we've made it to VIP status. And I was told what that means is very impressionable person. Yesterday we went to a dedication of a room in the R.L. Moore House. It was dedicated to Bill Mahavier. And there were people there that told stories about his teaching and his incredible dedication to his students over the years. Our stories are, of course, a little bit different since we haven't known Bill that long. So we want to talk a little bit about those stories and how they led us to make dramatic changes in our teaching. So I'm going to start with my story first. So around about 2000, I believe it was, a colleague of mine, Michelle Benedict, I believe her daughter is here. She was here a minute ago. There she is, yes. Michelle Benedict and I were at a joint meeting in Washington, D.C., and Michelle had an interest in the Moore method because she'd had a wonderful experience from a Moore method teacher in high school. I'd had a Moore method graduate experience with Bob Daverman, who was also here a minute ago. I don't think he's here anymore, but that was a wonderful experience. And a lot of times, those Moore experiences you don't really appreciate until many years later, and I appreciate that graduate experience much more now than I ever did then. But anyway, we stopped at the EAF booth, picked up some materials because of our interest in the Moore method. And when we were there, somebody said, well, you know, there's a fellow that's very close to you. His name is Bill Mahavier, and you ought to contact him. And so shortly thereafter, I called him on the phone. I said, look, could you come talk to our math club about R.L. Moore and the Moore method? And of course, the way Bill was, he was delighted. He'd love to help students out all the time. So he came to talk to our math club. And while he was there, he said, you know, there's some money to pay somebody to watch me teach my class. Anybody here interested in doing that? And I didn't, I don't think I gave it even a minute's thought. I said, sure, I'll do that. So for one whole semester in 2001, that's fall 2001, I watched Bill teach and never seen anything like it. What it did for me is I decided after that there was no way I couldn't try to teach this way. It was so powerful. I took a lot of notes. I was supposed to keep my mouth shut, so all I could do was take notes. And I did, and I would talk to him after class. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of some of those things that he talked about after class, I've got some quotes here. One time a student did something at the board, and Bill thought, well, he told the student it was wrong, and the student realized that it wasn't wrong, and he let Bill know about it. After class, he told me, I love classes like that, where the student will say, "You don't know what you're talking about, old man. Shut up, sit down, let me finish." Bill was a master of getting into students' heads, and I don't know how he did that, what he was doing, but that, I think, more than anything, made him such a great teacher. And so here's something he said to me one time after class. Part of the game is to try to think the way they are thinking. And that's hard to do sometimes. I've learned a lot from my students, and I mean at every level, from calculus to graduate seminars. And here's something he said one time which kind of describes the method a little bit. This is the first day of class. Some courses we teach by opening a fire hose on a large classroom in hope that everyone gets a little wet. I'm opening a faucet to a trickle, and I want you to drink every little drop of water that comes out. So to give you maybe a little bit of a sense of what that was like to be in that classroom, Ted Mahavier has put together a very nice website that contains a lot of videos of Bill teaching in 2008, which as I understand, was the last time he taught a full semester. And we have one of those. We have one of those clips.
So again, we're supposed to show that if m is a point set, there cannot be both a rightmost point of m and the smallest number larger than each number in m. Okay, so we're going to let point P be the largest, be the rightmost point of m. We're going to say that m has a rightmost point and P is it. So for purposes, this is m. Here's P.
Is n a segment?
No, not necessarily. Just for illustrations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't very well be a segment.
Right, because then I wouldn't have a rightmost point.
It's got to have a rightmost point.
Right, okay. Sorry. Well, anyway. This is not gonna be one.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So then if P is the rightmost point, then for any point Q such that Q is greater than P, there exists a point, call it Z, between them by property 3. And therefore, there is no smallest number which is larger than each in M.
And there's one you got to convince.
I think that's correct, but I think you just have to define Z.
Z is any.
Or like repeat it again to show
Okay.
that there's a point that's smaller than z.
Okay. So then, well, I mean, for any point Q that's greater than P, there will always be another point Z that's in between them by property 3. So for any point, Z can now be the new Q. So there's a second one here, which is like P. And so on and so forth.
Well, why is it that the fact that there's a point between Z and, I mean Z between P and Q, why is it that means that you can't have both? The biggest number in M and the smallest number bigger than M.
Because you can do this for n number of points, so there are infinitely many points.
For any two numbers.
Yeah, but how does
Well, right. So
this show that there can't be a largest point in M?
because no matter which point you pick, there will always be one smaller.
Perhaps it would be useful to define what Q is. Did you do that?
Yeah.
Make sure you define that P is the rightmost point in M.
I did.
Yeah.
He said it.
That was given.
Did you define Q?
Yeah, Q is any point larger than P.
Well, maybe redefine Q.
To be.
Well, you're trying to show that it.
Yeah, but Joey, which
What
part of
it-
the question are you trying to do?
You're trying to prove that there can't be a rightmost point of M and the smallest number, which is larger than each number in M.
Right, yeah.
So,
Well, you could have said that if Q is supposed to be the smallest number, which is larger than each of the ones in M, if you can draw a Z, then
It's not, yeah.
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
not.
That's fine.
so then it's proven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The
it.
question is, why is it that Q couldn't be? How do you know that Q is not the smallest number, bigger than every number in M?
The presence of Z.
Right.
Because Q is supposed to be the smallest number larger than every number.
No, he didn't say that.
Oh.
He said Q was just a number divided to.
Oh.
For any Q, you think there's a smaller
Define
number,
Q, I think.
point Z that,
But how do you,
Okay, so
If there's a smaller number, why does that mean that Q is not the smallest number, bigger than every number in M?
because Z is between M and Q.
Because what?
Z is between M and Q, so it's larger than all of M, but smaller than Q.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I wanted.
Okay.
That's what you were going to say, I was doing. Yeah. Yeah, Q can't be the smallest number, bigger than every number in M, because there is a number Z between P and Q. And since Z is bigger than P, and P is the biggest number in M, then Z is bigger than every number in M, which means that Q wasn't the smallest one.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, this video was my choice. There were so many of them. I mean, you can just, I can't stop watching. And probably I insisted on choosing this one in the end because it taught me so much. I had never seen, through the eyes of a teacher, a classroom like this. Certainly not Bill. When I, for the first time, taught a course using this method. And so I want to just give you a brief idea, just like at the round table the first morning, you know, what got you to even try to do this. I entered this all a little bit later than Cornelius. I was quite frustrated at some point. I mean, did I say I had a graduate school class early in my graduate years that was taught using a method where we were given problems and we had to solve them. But I just enjoyed it. I didn't really think about why this was, how this was supposed to work. I didn't worry about it. I just liked it very much. But 20 years later, I found myself really frustrated teaching an analysis course for the third time. And I was the only one excited in the room every day. I mean, I loved that stuff. It was great, but I was lecturing, and the students were doing what they always do. They take notes and, you know, complain about difficult problems on homework, and I mean, you know, it just goes as it always does. And I was trying to figure out after the third time, you know, what is it that I'm missing? Why am I frustrated? This is how it is. And it took me quite a while to go inside myself and talk to people and try to express the feelings that I had, to try to bring them out. And eventually, it was very clear to me that what I was missing was that feeling, that excitement, that thrill that I felt about the material I was working on when I was taking that one Moore method class early in my graduate career. It was very clear. That is the excitement that I am missing in the students. That was all what my frustration was about, because the lectures were fantastic, the material was great. I mean, it wasn't anything else. It couldn't have been anything else. So that's when I started forming these thoughts that I have to try to figure out a way to teach this analysis course in that way and see if things change, but I was convinced that they would. And then a number of incredible coincidences that I will just briefly I was in Baltimore at the joint meetings to interview some people for an open position in our department. And during a break, I found the EAF booth, and it was just amazing because I had thought, well, how can I even begin to think about teaching a course using this method? I can't make up these problems. I don't really know how to do that. I don't know where I'm heading. I knew nothing about it. I was aware that I couldn't just do it. But I go to this booth and there are materials, there are problem sequences, there are the friendliest mathematicians I had ever talked to. And of course I put my name on the mailing list, and there were several lists actually. I put my name on every list and took some notes with me, and a couple months later I got an invitation to come to the 2003 EAF conference, which was the first time I attended. And that same feeling that I had at the booth about the friendliness, the inclusion that I felt, I did not feel intimidated in any way. People were just so down to earth, and we were talking about excellent and well-known mathematicians at this conference. So to me, this was just an incredible experience. And the next year, I received another invitation. I hadn't made much progress so far on this course, but I received the next invitation, and I see Cornelius, together with Bill Mahavier, up on the stage giving a presentation and talk about Cornelius's experience at Emory, which he described a little bit earlier. And I thought to myself, well, that's the guy I need to talk to. Cornelius, I was thinking, I didn't dare walk up to Bill and start talking to him. And in the evening, I sit in the sauna, all by myself. And who walks in? Well, this guy walks in. The only other person who likes to go to the sauna at the conference, it seems. And I was like, oh my God, another coincidence. Here he is. And I said, okay, this is you, just the guy I needed to talk to. And we started talking, and Cornelius introduced me to Bill, and Bill and I immediately got into a conversation about teaching. I had some problems with some physicists in my differential equations course about dx and delta x and these kinds of things. John talked about it a little bit. And so that continued through email, and then, there was a gap. And as the end of the year rolls around, I had to decide, am I going to do this now or not? And I shot off boldly an email to Bill. Actually, it was to both Bill and Ted at the time, but I'm going to focus on Bill. Ted, I don't want to leave you out because I was communicating with both for a while. But I was like, Bill, would you like to, or would you be willing to consider to mentor me through this? I'm really afraid. I don't really know what I'm doing. I've done a little bit of research. I've seen some problem sequences. And, he said, I'm sorry, I can't remember all this. Somehow this shrunk down. Let me see, how do I do this? Well, and so I sent off this email saying, I'm sorry, this is for being so bold, but would you consider doing this? And he said, well, of course, I would love to mentor you, and I will try to answer every question you have. Well, and then that's what I started doing. I asked him every question I had. And there were lots of questions, and these were, long emails with 4 or 5 questions, maybe 7 or 8 details, and I get something back, and I have new questions, and questions that go deeper, and it started up immediately like a wildfire, and it was incredible. I asked lots of questions where at the beginning I felt a little embarrassed having to ask it, because I thought, well, I should probably know this, we'll figure this out myself, but I just asked, and Bill never got tired of responding, and every response was, just incredibly thoughtful, detailed, and it was just such a good fortune to have him, to just without any sense of trepidation, just throw everything out, and he took everything so seriously. He never made me feel stupid, even though I felt bad after a while, and I said, I must be getting on your nerves. This must be taking your whole day. And he said, no. We more people, we don't really think about what we do or how we do it. And this kind of exchange may help me figure out, what I can do to help pass it on. So he looked at it as a learning opportunity. And I chose a few other things that happened during this email exchange. I still have all of these emails. I mean, it's difficult to sort through, and I'm working on it, but I have all these emails from before the course started until we stopped communicating just before the semester was over. I think it is potentially an incredible resource for other projects, for other people, and we'll get to that here in a moment. Let me just share a few other things that he said. As I combed through these emails, I found some things that I find striking. And you know, in the very beginning, before the course actually started, and maybe that was actually on the first day, just before the first day, I go to class, and he says, you know, be warned that to do a good job the first time requires an enormous amount of time and patience. And you must convince them that you have confidence in their ability and that you are on their side, that you are not part of that you are part of the solution and not part of the problem. Oh no, at some later point, slightly later, when the class had started, and I was wondering about, you know, there was a student and something had happened, and student had asked me, well, you know, can you show me what a good proof looks like, and things like that. And, you know, and he wrote, as part of that conversation, the success of the Moore method depends to a large part on understanding what your students need. If a student, and Moore method was abbreviated capital M, capital M. And then a little bit about that student and telling me something, and then it's and then at the end it says, Moore would probably turn over in his grave at that statement that he had made, and I'm leaving out. But you are getting the BMM, the Bill Behavior Method, anyway. Which I thought was very interesting because at some other point he really pointed it very clearly to the fact that whatever you end up doing must be very much adjusted to your own personality. So not just that there are these two methods, you got to choose one or they're different, but everybody has their own. So he really pointed that out, and I didn't know anything about this. You see, you have to understand, I didn't know anything about this, so these were really incredible statements. You know, for example, I had decided to want to use his problem sequence because the start, I really liked the beginning of it. It didn't seem complicated to get started. And I was wondering at some point, I said, well, you know, should I sit down before the course starts and work through that problem sequence? Because I thought that's probably a good idea. And he responds, I do not think that you should sit down and prove all the theorems before you start. It is hard enough to try and find out what the student is trying to do without a preconceived idea about the proof. Well, that's probably one of my favorites. And then a couple of weeks into the course, I was kind of frustrated with the students not being able to write anything. Well, of course, how should they know how to write anything? But I didn't know. I was just looking and I thought, oh my God. And so then after I got the first set of really good notes, and I was so happy, and I expressed that in my email. I said, oh my God, you know, I got these. And his response is, you know, isn't it gratifying to see that they do understand? And that they can write up something correctly? That is what keeps me teaching when I no longer need or want the money. We're running out here? Yeah, we're running out. Okay. I mean, this goes on and on. I mean, I had a lot more chosen, but I need to stop. I mean, all these things I have them all. I don't exactly know what to do with them. At this point, because it's so much, I'm combing through them, and I try to come up with ideas. Any ideas that you might have, please share them. But, you know, this experience was just, I can't find what I wanted to say. This whole experience was just really incredible, and it has completely changed, if not all of my teaching, because I'm at an institution where this is, I had a dream about it last night, which I won't tell you, but you know, it's not easy, but it has completely changed my view of what teaching really is, to the point where it has very much affected the way that I raised my children after this change in view of what teaching means. And, you know, I got to stop somewhere, and there's never a good point. I'm just in awe. And I have this stuff, and I want to, yeah, do this here. Your turn.
Yeah.
I'm out.
So yeah, we had a experience that was Bill as a mentor, and you know, a lot of you have been taught by Bill maybe, or known Bill as a colleague, and this was something I think, this was a gift he gave toward the end of his life to mentor people in teaching, and it was an incredible gift, and we just feel like somehow we want to give something back, and I am hoping that somehow some of the resources, some of the emails that Bernd has, volumes of some of our notes that we took can be useful to someone, or maybe the video clips, or maybe if you want to run a course like this, like the one that Bill taught, we have notes, problem sequences from that course. I think they're going to be on Giblum soon, and you know, we're more than happy to help anybody out who would like to teach a course like this in any kind of way. So finally, what made a lot of this happen, of course, was Harry Lucas and the EAF, and we want to really thank Harry for all he's done for us, and we also want to thank this community for accepting us with open arms and helping us on our way to becoming better teachers. And most importantly, and this is deep down, thank you, Bill.
Don't be the least bit concerned about talking to them, about asking for help. That's why they're here.
I just wanted to say how in awe I am of what y'all got out of Bill. In 1989, when I contacted him to try to get him to write about the Moore method, he said, why write anything? It's very simple. Just listen to what they say.
Yeah, and I really would like to emphasize something that we have not maybe emphasized, and that is that incredible website Ted put together. I talked with him about it. I think it is just unbelievable that one person was able to do all this. And then he told me he did the bulk of the work in 3 weeks. Of course, he was doing nothing else. He was in isolation and worked through all of these materials. We don't quite understand how Bill actually allowed being videotaped towards the end, because he was very resistant to that, I think, for a long time. By the way, it's just incredible that it happened. So whatever influences got him to allow this, thank you, and Ted, that is just incredible. I mean, I've spent so many hours just watching and reading, and there's so much thoughtful guidance on that website. No matter what your background, how much you know already about where you are in this overall process, it's worth going to take a look at. The easiest way to find it is Google Bill Behavior video, and it's the first hit.
Was Bill able to influence a lot of other faculty members at Emory to use the Moore method?
I'll try to speak to that. Yeah. As far as I know, he was the only one at Emory that did that.
John?
What's that?
John Newberg.
No, I mean, when I was there.
Oh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, John was at Emory. But yeah, as far as I know, no, he wasn't trying to influence other people at Emory. And I don't know if anybody else knows.
Well, I would like to hear what John, you don't want to say something about it because you were there with him for several years, right? I mean,
You get me started here.
No, don't get started. I mean, just a little bit.
We were together in 5 universities, Bill Mahager and I. And here as a students, and then 4 others. And we shared an office together for 13 years at Emory. No, 4 years at Tennessee. We didn't share an office, but I heard him hundreds of hours working over students. And in my own case,
John, did he try to influence other people in the department to consider teaching like that, or did both of you try to do that? I think that was the question.
No, that was pretty much a washout. One model of the world is that you do a good thing and you get credit for it. Another more frequent thing is you do a good thing and you've made a lot of trouble for yourself.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have it any other way. It's naive to think that you do something good, you'll get praise for it or credit. It's naive. That's not the way the world works. But we didn't make much progress there. A little bit, but very little.
Thank you.
This business entails a fundamental change in the way a person looks at the world. It's not about some information about teaching. It's a fundamental thing, and it's a fundamental change, and people resist that. Mm-hmm. It's hard to make that change. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I congratulate you too on being part of the answer instead of part of the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.